I never imagined a simple translation would lead to a heartbreaking 1 billion twist. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My hands shook, clutching the pages of the ancient manuscript. Words danced before my eyes. I felt the weight of history pressing down on me. A soft whisper of secrets lingered in the air, threatening to unleash chaos. There I was, sitting in a dimly lit café, the aroma of strong coffee mingling with the distant sounds of clinking cups and quiet conversations. Sam, my best friend, sat across the table, his brow furrowed, too anxiously biting into his muffin. I could sense his unease, the tension crackling like static electricity between us. We had promised each other that we would get through this whatever this was. A few weeks ago, we stumbled across that manuscript buried deep in my grandmother's attic. The cracked leather cover tugged at my curiosity. Just a translation, we thought. But with each word I deciphered, I could feel the energy shift. Strange symbols, tales of lost treasures, and a warning echoing in my mind: beware the truth, for it holds more than mere knowledge. I shivered as I recalled that line. My heart raced at the thought of what we had unearthed. I could almost hear the pulsing heartbeat of something incredible, something terrifying buried beneath the surface of those pages. Sam's voice broke my thoughts. You have to stop, you can't dig deeper. I could see the fear in his eyes. It mirrored my own. Yet, a stubborn flame flickered within me. My curiosity pushed me forward, even as shadows loomed closer. I didn't fully grasp the consequences of piecing together this puzzle. I was blinded by ambition, eager to uncover the secrets that lay hidden for generations. But then, just as I was about to reveal the final line, my phone buzzed insistently on the table. The screen flashed a name that sent chills down my spine: an unfamiliar voice, connected to my family, promising answers too horrifying to fathom. I hesitated, time stretching into an uneasy silence, sweat forming on my upper lip. What if I never heard from them again? What if this call revealed the darkness? Suddenly, my hands trembled as I reached for my phone. The room constricted as my heart thudded like a drum. Sam's eyes widened, a silent plea for me not to answer. I could feel the weight of the moment. Do I risk it all? Do I pull the thread further, or let the tapestry unravel? Then, I pressed the button. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, drowning out the noise of the café. The call connected, and I held my breath. A voice, cold and unsettling, whispered through the receiver. You don't know what you've unleashed. What had I done? My heart sank, a million questions swirling in my mind. What followed next was a darkness I couldn't have prepared for. All I knew was that everything was about to change. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The words echoed in my mind long after I hung up, wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. You don't know what you've unleashed. What did they mean? My fingers trembled on the table, and I glanced up to see Sam stricken with worry. The warmth of the cafe felt distant, as if I were encased in ice. What was that about? He demanded, eyes wide and frantic. But I couldn't find the words. Instead, I stared into space, trying to process the warning. The atmosphere had shifted, a shadow loomed over our shared space, and I felt it like a whisper against my skin. Without answering, I stood abruptly, knocking over my chair. The clang of wood against the floor pierced the air, drawing eyes towards us. I felt exposed, like the fragile bubble of calm we had shared moments ago had burst, leaving me open to the chaos that lay beyond it. Let's get out of here, I muttered, not bothering to look back as I pushed through the door, the bell jangling a frantic goodbye behind me. The crisp air greeted me like a slap, invigorating yet harsh. I inhaled deeply, the scent of impending rain thick in the air. The sky mirrored my confusion, swirling gray clouds threatening to unleash a storm. As we walked, silence enveloped us. It wasn't until we reached the park that Sam finally leaned against a tree, forcing me to make eye contact. What did they want? He had that look on his face, the one that bore the weight of unsaid fears. And so many fears kept bubbling up in me, misunderstood, hidden, threatening to overflow. I don't know, I whispered, the words tearing from me. But it felt serious. He rubbed the back of his neck, failing to mask his mounting panic. You have to tell me everything you've translated. If it's dangerous, if it's about to become a problem, we can't ignore it. The thought of sharing my discoveries made my stomach churn. Each line I had uncovered felt like the forbidden glimmer of unlockable doors. What if I told you there are things in there that could ruin lives? I said, finally meeting his gaze. The truth clawed at me, an ache I had been concealing. Or save them, he countered, his voice just above a whisper. You don't know until you look further. I had never seen Sam so resolute, and it sent a flicker of something warm through me. Courage, maybe. What lay beneath all those ancient words? What secrets lived in the shadows? Maybe together we could wield this knowledge into something powerful, something transformative, but what if it was a path we would regret taking? And as if on cue, I thought of my grandmother, her stories of resilience, her warning glances under the shadow of the ancient oak in the backyard. What if she knew something? Panic twisted in my gut as I recalled the frantic look on her face the last time I was there, a fleeting moment that had seemed insignificant then. Perhaps it was the flutter of unease or the heaviness of hidden truths that we need to go see her. Now. The decision felt monumental, but it was also clouded by dread. What if seeking answers only led to greater questions, unanswered yet growing like weeds in the corners of my mind? As we turned to make our way back, the wind picked up, whipping around us and tossing leaves into dizzying spirals. A small child dashed past us, laughing, a sprinkle of joy amidst the storm gathering in my heart. I paused for a moment, absorbing the laughter. It was so pure, so free. Could I ever feel that way again? Moments later, as we rounded the corner towards my grandmother's house, I saw a figure pacing outside her door, anxiety rippling through the air. My heart sank. It was my estranged uncle, pale and hollow-eyed, a man whose presence was a specter I had long wished to forget. The door behind him stood ajar, an invitation or perhaps a warning, I couldn't tell. What was he doing here? A million fears surged at me. What if he knew? What if he had come to quell the storm lurking just beneath the surface? Suddenly I felt weightless, lightheaded, as if the ground had shifted beneath my feet. Don't, Sam said, gripping my arm. We need to think this through. But I was already breaking into a run. I had to face this. Whatever lay within those walls, I couldn't back down now. Not when answers teetered at the threshold. As I reached the door, the bell tinkled softly, and I felt a flicker of hope against the gathering storm. But just before I pushed the door wider, my phone buzzed again, this time with a text. The message was brief and chilling, sending a shudder rocketing through me. You are not safe. The truth demands attention. As I stood frozen, I felt the world closing in, the weight of uncertainty, the reckoning of choices yet to be made. And somewhere deep within me, under the layers of confusion and fear, a voice whispered urgently, it's only just beginning. The door creaked open, and I stepped into the familiar dimness of my grandmother's home, feeling the atmosphere shift like a tide. Memories flooded back, the soft smell of her lavender oil, the worn rug underfoot, the countless afternoons spent listening to her stories. But today, the air felt heavy, thick with unspoken truths. Grandma? I called, my voice echoing off the walls, swallowed by a silence that seemed almost accusatory. No one's here, my uncle replied, his tone devoid of warmth. He turned, his eyes glinting not with kindness, but with a sharpness that made my pulse quicken. They went to the doctor. Nothing serious, I hope. For a moment, I considered the option of slipping out quietly, avoiding this confrontation altogether. But I wasn't that child anymore, scared of the shadows. I was on the brink of something much bigger now, something that threatened to unravel everything. Why are you here? I managed, my voice trembling slightly. The boldness I sought seemed a frail veneer, cracking under the weight of his gaze. He took a step closer, his presence looming, a dark cloud in a room full of light. "I'm here to find out what she knows," he said, each word dripping with a mixture of urgency and concern that unsettled me. "About what?" "About what you've translated." His statement hung between us, a solid wall that narrowed the space. Each syllable tingled with implications. "What do you mean?" I felt a pit forming in my stomach. "You've never cared about her before." "I care now," he said, a harsh edge tinging his voice. "Trust me, you don't understand the power of what you're toying with." I wanted to ask what he meant, to press him for details, but a feeling of trepidation rooted me in place. "You're lying. You don't want to protect her, you want to control her." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "And you want to dismantle everything she has built, don't you? You're risking all of our lives." Shock paralyzed me momentarily. How could he turn this all around? Was he merely trying to intimidate me into silence? I stumbled backward, feeling Sam's steady presence behind me, grounding me against the unsettling tide of negativity emanating from my uncle. "What are you talking about?" Sam interjected, drawing attention away from me, challenging the encroaching darkness. "She has every right to know what might affect her life." Why Uncle's gaze shifted slightly, and I saw a flicker of something fear. "You're too late," he said, his voice now riddled with disquiet. "This isn't just about the translations. It's about legacy. The past can haunt you if you allow it." I felt a tremor deep within me. Was the past truly haunting? I hadn't even begun to unravel the depths of my discoveries. The texts I found whispered of long-buried secrets and warnings that threatened to unravel everything I thought I knew about my family and, more importantly, about myself. "Then help us understand. If you really care about Grandma," I ventured, unexpected defiance coursing through me. "What do you know?" He stepped back, an incredulous expression morphing into one of bitterness. "You think you're prepared for the answers? What's been hidden is buried for a reason." "I won't back down," I said, the fear igniting a flicker of resolve. Whatever my uncle was holding back, he was right. I was on the verge of something monumental. Was it foolishness or bravery that propelled me forward? Just then, the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway, and I turned instinctively, my heart racing at the thought of my grandmother's arrival. But it wasn't her that stepped through the door. A stranger woman with an air of authority that filled the cluttered room entered, her presence radiating a strange mixture of calm and tension. She locked eyes with me, and something in her gaze sent a chill up my spine. "Who are you?" I asked, confusion and fear rising. "Someone who knows the dangers of what you've unearthed," she replied, her voice smooth yet firm. "And I'm here to warn you that there may be more at risk than you realize." The weight of her words settled around me, thickening the air, as I grappled with the implications. Could this be the warning foreseen in the earlier call? Uncertainty gripped my chest, but my resolve deepened as I realized how far I had ventured. I looked at Sam, whose wide eyes mirrored my own confusion, then back at my uncle, who seemed suddenly less significant beneath the gravity of her presence. The storm inside me roared with tumultuous questions, loudest of which was, what had I really unlocked? "Tell us," I said, my voice steady despite the fear that clawed at me. "What do we need to know?" As the stranger took a step forward, the world felt suspended in an unrelenting silence, waiting for her revelation. And just when it seemed she might divulge the truth, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket again, drawing my attention. I hesitated to glance down, but the instinct compelled me. The message that flashed across the screen shattered the moment. "They're coming for you. Don't trust anyone." I turned back to the others, my heart racing, dread coursing through my veins. The room spun around me, confusion sharpening into panic as I scanned their faces. Who could I trust now? The delicate web of connections spun between us was unraveling, and I was at the center of it all, completely exposed. The words on my phone lingered in the air like an echo, reverberating within the confines of my mind as I processed their chilling implications. "They're coming for you. Don't trust anyone." My fingers tightened around the device, a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. I felt untethered, lost in a sea of uncertainty as the stakes escalated in unimaginable ways. The stranger narrowed her eyes at me, assessing my hesitation. "It seems the message was timed poorly," she said, her voice laced with tension. "But it only reinforces what I need to tell you. You must be vigilant. Who is coming?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my frantic attempt to project calmness. "And why shouldn't I trust you?" She held up her hand. "There's no time for that. Trust will come later. Right now, you need to understand that there are those who will do anything to keep the truth buried. Your discoveries, they pose a threat to powerful interests." Why Uncle took a step back, a shadow flickering across his face. "You don't know what you're talking about. Don't underestimate her," Sam muttered, stepping slightly closer to me. "What you're involved in is clearly more significant than we imagined. We need to listen." The stranger nodded, her expression softening momentarily. "You're right. The texts, they contain information that could alter not just your family's legacy, but also the balance of power as you know it. Secrets do not remain buried forever, and even the strongest foundations can crumble at a whisper of truth. As I absorbed her words, a deep sense of foreboding washed over me. Could my thirst for knowledge truly jeopardize those I loved? Could I inadvertently unravel lives, including my own? Just then, the door creaked open again, forcing my heart into a frenzy at the thought of my grandmother's return. But instead, it was only the faint sound of footsteps echoing again, this time from the hallway outside. My heartbeat quickened, blending urgency with fear. "Stay quiet," the stranger said, her tone becoming sharply guarded. "They're near." That I felt like a deer caught in headlights, awaiting an inevitable fate as I exchanged worried glances with Sam and my uncle. The tension in the room thickened to a suffocating weight. Suddenly, my grandmother appeared around the corner, her face pale and lined with worry. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice a tremor of panic cutting through the thick air. Before I could answer, my uncle's hand shot out, grabbing her arm. "You shouldn't be here. We need to leave," he urged, looking back at the stranger with barely concealed alarm. I opened my mouth to object, to voice my concerns about her safety, but my thoughts betrayed me. A sharp knock resonated from the front door, echoing with a finality that sent a jolt through my spine. "Hide," the stranger whispered fiercely. Panicking, I grabbed Sam's wrist and pulled him toward the aged bookshelf against the wall, where I'd often spent afternoon losing myself in my grandmother's stories. We ducked behind it as my uncle placed himself protectively in front of my grandmother, his posture taut and ready for confrontation. The sound of shuffling dueled with the heartbeat resounding in my ears, the dread of impending doom tightening its grip. I could sense that whatever lay waiting behind the door was not a comforting presence, was predatory. "That I am not leaving her," I muttered, my heart racing as I observed the fear shadowing my grandmother's eyes. "She's not safe," the stranger whispered back, her tone insistent yet tinged with sympathy. "You don't understand what they're capable of. Protect your family." Just as I was about to respond, the door swung open, revealing two imposing figures dressed in dark suits, their faces obscured by shadows. My breath caught in my throat, and dread pooled in the pit of my stomach. "Where is it?" one of the men demanded, scanning the room with an intensity that made desperation flare in my chest. "We know you have it." The tension in the room crackled, palpable like a live wire, and I squeezed Sam's hand tighter, desperation coursing through me as I realized, their search wasn't for my grandmother or even for the translations. It was for me. "What do we do?" Sam breathed, fear etched on his face. I didn't have the answer. The magnitude of what lay before us was far beyond anything I had anticipated. A shattering realization dawned: I wasn't just a student of history, I was now an unwilling player in a dangerous game much larger than myself, one where the consequences echoed in the lives of those I loved. Just as the men moved deeper into the house, my grandmother took a step forward, her voice cutting through the tension. "What do you want from us?" "Leave my family alone." The world stilled momentarily, as if time held its breath. The figures exchanged a pointed look, and in that electric moment, I understood, they were not simply here to retrieve information. They were here to silence us, and standing next to me, the stranger began to silently gather herself, her resolve apparent, signaling she was ready to act. My mind raced with possibilities. Could we truly stand our ground, or was the weight of legacy of secrets long buried about to crush us beneath its relentless tide? Just as the first man opened his mouth to speak again, a loud crash reverberated from the back of the house, catching everyone's attention. It was enough of a distraction that I felt Sam's grip on my wrist tighten, pulling me further back into the shadows. Go, he whispered fervently, urgency igniting a flicker of hope. We need to find a way out, now. It was a choice birthed from desperation, the need to survive as the walls began to close in. With one last glance at my grandmother, who radiated both fear and fierce determination, I turned and squeezed through the narrow opening behind the bookcase. As our footsteps fled down the darkened hall, I couldn't shake the feeling that running would only lead us further into danger. But, driven by instinct and a heart full of haunting echoes, I chose to confront this storm head-on. Whatever I had begun unfurling was only the start, the true tempest was yet to come, and everything I thought I knew was on the cusp of shattering. The hallway stretched out before us, dimly lit by a flickering bulb overhead, casting shadows that danced along the walls like restless spirits. Each step felt heavy not just with the weight of my body, but with the gravity of the secrets I carried. The crash we'd heard earlier rang in my ears, a vague reminder that chaos had erupted in our lives, yet I pushed forward with Sam, urgency propelling us deeper into the dark. Where are we going? I whispered, my voice barely more than a breath. Anywhere but here, Sam replied, glancing over his shoulder as the men moved into the living room, the remnants of their conversation still haunting the air like a bitter perfume. We need to find a way out back. As we navigated the narrow space, I felt the oppressive feeling of anxiety clawing at my insides. Each door we passed represented a different life, each room a sacred memory that had now become entangled in this web of danger. I longed to turn back, to warn my grandmother or see what had become of my uncle, but I knew that facing the impending storm head-on was the only option we had left. We reached the kitchen and crouched behind the counter, hearts pounding. The sound of footsteps echoed from the living room, and a voice I recognized pierced through the tension. She has it, I'm certain of it. We need to find her before they do. My breath hitched at the realization. They were seeking me, not just for the messages or the translations, they were after the truth that lingered in my bloodline. Something profound shifted in my core. I was no longer just a girl caught up in the chase for knowledge, I was transformed into the very key to powers beyond my understanding. How do they know about you? Sam asked, his eyes wide with concern. What if this means they've been watching your family for years? I don't know, I whispered, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. But we can't stay here. We have to find a safe place. As we pieced together our escape plan, I glimpsed a glint of movement through the window and felt a fleeting sense of relief wash over me. A figure emerged, a familiar silhouette. My heart leaped. Over here, I murmured, gently pulling Sam toward the window. I pressed my face against the cool glass, recognizing the outline of my childhood friend, Mia, who had a knack for showing up just when the world fell apart. She had always been my lifeline, a source of laughter amidst the chaos. Mia waved frantically, signaling for us to come closer. Her presence felt like a ray of light cutting through the suffocating darkness. But as we exchanged anxious glances, doubt mingled with hope. Could she really help us? Was she even safe? As if reading my thoughts, Sam took a deep breath. We can't ignore her. She won't expect this, we need to move before it's too late. Steeling myself, I nodded and reached for the back door. But just as I turned the handle, it swung open, and there stood a shadow cold and commanding. The men were only footsteps away from discovering us, and our chances of escape slipped away like grains of sand. Go! I urged, pushing Sam through the door and out onto the porch. The fresh air filled my lungs, but it came laced with the salt of impending dread. I turned back just as a hand shot out to grab mine. No! I screamed, pulling away from the grasp that sought to chain me back to despair. With one last glance at the angry figures now emerging from the house, I darted down the steps, my feet meeting the ground beneath me like a whispered prayer for safe passage. In the chaos, I caught sight of Mia racing toward us, eyes wide with determination. "Get in the car!" she yelled, urgency lacing her tone as she gestured wildly towards the sleek, black sedan idling at the curb. The engine rumbled, a comforting sound amidst the chaos that we sprinted toward her, urgency amplifying every sensation, the pounding of my heart, the rush of adrenaline, the gnawing fear that clung to my skin like a shroud. I jumped into the back seat, pulling Sam in just before the engine's roar drowned out a distant shout behind us. As Mia sped away, the adrenaline began to ebb, replaced by a tidal wave of questions and regrets that threatened to pull me under. "What do you know?" I demanded, turning to her as the city blurred into a cacophony of colors. "I overheard some conversations at the café," she replied, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "Things about your family and something big. You're in over your head, Sarah." "It's like they were waiting for this moment," Sam interjected, his voice trembling. "What are we even dealing with?" "I wish I had answers," Mia said quietly, her brows knitting together in concern. "But there are people who want the truth buried. They've been watching for a long time." The weight of her words pressed down on me, a leaden mantle I didn't know how to shake off. For the first time, I could feel the full weight of the storm looming over us, the angry clouds of secrets ready to break free that we drove through the night, the hum of the tires on the asphalt punctuating the silence that enveloped us. I watched the world slip by, wondering how everything had unraveled so quickly. The thought of my grandmother and uncle loomed heavy on my heart, scratching at the edges of my resolve. Where was safety now? The thought of betrayal settled like a lump in my throat. Who could I trust when everything felt so fragile? Suddenly, Mia slammed the brakes, jolting us. "Get down!" she shouted, her voice a sharp blade slicing through my turmoil. Peering over the dashboard, my breath hitched as I registered the ominous black car closing in from behind us, menacing figures inside, dark suits unmistakable even under the dim glow of the moonlight. "Hold on!" Mia cried, whipping the wheel to the side, the sedan veering off toward an alley. "Go, go, go!" Sam urged, his hands balled into fists, churning with the anxiety that was now a shared burden. Mia pressed the accelerator, and the car surged forward, wheels screeching against the pavement. But I knew, as the alley stretched before us, the predators of truth were relentless. This was far from over. As we rounded the corner, the car screeched to a halt, revealing a flat wall before us. The only way out felt like an insurmountable obstacle, a blind alley with no escape. Panic surged through me, and I felt the space closing in on all sides. "Where do we go?" I gasped, desperation clawing at my throat. Mia's expression morphed into something grim. "We jump," she said, and in her eyes, I saw an echo of fierce determination, tinged with fear. As she opened her door, I turned, panic giving way to clarity. I couldn't let my family or myself be silenced. This was just the beginning of a journey I hadn't asked for, yet each moment peeled back layers I never knew existed within me. And that heartbeat of a decision, I understood, we were standing on the precipice of revelation, and devoting myself to the truth was no longer an option, but a calling. The window rolled down, and the piercing sound of footsteps grew closer. Now or never. And as the rush of uncertainty swelled, I decided I would not cower in fear. Whatever came next, I would confront it head-on. And in that split second, I leaped into the unknown, one half-open door at a time, where the fallout of choices lingered and the stakes were higher than ever imagined. The chill of the alley air enveloped me as I landed hard on the asphalt, the impact jolting through my bones. For a heartbeat, I lay still, overwhelmed by the cacophony of noise swirling around us. Mia's shouts, Sam's breathless encouragement, and the echo of footsteps drawing nearer. "Get up!" Sam urged, his hand outstretched, gripping my forearm with urgency. I scrambled to my feet, adrenaline igniting every nerve as I brushed off the gritty pavement. "Which way?" I gasped, trying to catch my breath between the echoes of footfalls that chased us. Mia eyed the darkened streets that stretched out in both directions, her face half lit by the moonlight. "Left." she shouted, steering us toward a narrow passage that appeared to lead towards the bustling heart of the city beyond. As we ran, I dared a glance back, just in time to see the men spill into the alley. Their figures merged into the shadows, only their angry shouts making it clear they were in pursuit. "They're right behind us!" I cried, picking up the pace, fear propelling me forward. The distant sounds of chatter and laughter came into focus, flashing neon signs illuminating a street that felt deceptively safe. But I was painfully aware that danger lurked close behind. Through the crowd, Mia shouted, veering toward an outdoor market setting up for the evening, colorful stalls peppering the square with life. As we burst into the throng, we melded into the chaos, faces blurring and voices overlapping, each stranger an unwitting shield against the chaos we left in our wake. Glancing around, it struck me that amidst the cacophony, there were familiar faces, pedestrians lost in their own worlds, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around us. A woman selling flowers caught my eye, her warm smile radiating comfort that felt alien in our desperate escape. I wanted to reach out, to connect in this moment of disarray, but the urgency of our situation pulled me back. "Stay close," Mia urged, her voice strained, guiding us through narrow pathways between stalls. As the men's voices receded, I felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps we could disappear in plain sight, blend into the evening revelry until it was safe to breathe again. But as we passed a booth displaying intricate handmade jewelry, a sharp pain pierced through my world of fleeting relief. A glint of silver caught my eye. It was a ring, intricately designed with symbols I recognized, a subset of the very language I had struggled to translate, a language that was poised to unlock age-old secrets. In that fleeting moment, desire tightened its grip on my heart. The connection it spun felt like destiny reaching out to me. "Sarah, come on." Sam's voice pulled me from my reverie. He looked back, anxiety drawing lines between his brows. I quickly glanced over my shoulder, and my heart sank as I spotted the men once more, weaving through the crowd, remorseless as they hunted for the truth. "Mia, we need to move." We ducked deeper into the market, weaving past stalls and groups of laughing strangers, rare moments of laughter and warmth startling in the face of our frantic reality. In the midst of the confusion, a kind vendor caught my eye, extending a warm cup of steaming tea toward me. "You look like you need this," he said, his voice soft and inviting. "Thank you," I said absently, receiving it while still looking for an escape, feeling the warmth seep into my fingers even as dread gripped my heart. The vendor smiled broadly, the kindness momentarily easing my mounting fears. "Stay warm, young one," he said, and I could feel an odd sort of relief, tiny yet profound in the midst of our turmoil. That we moved on, leaving behind that fleeting moment of warmth for the chaos that awaited just around the corner. But it wasn't long before the shimmering light of safety began to dim around us, as the crowd thinned out, leading us away from the market into a less savory district. "Where are we going?" Sam whispered, his voice quivering with uncertainty. The buildings loomed over us, each step a reminder that danger was still a heartbeat away. "Anywhere but here," Mia replied, her voice steady yet low. Just then, as fate would have it, I felt the vibrations of the ground echo and a distant sound of laughter, tinged with joy and safety. It beckoned to me, and I glimpsed the entrance to a nearby bar, pulsating with music and life. "Inside," I urged, pointing toward the door, knowing we needed to lose ourselves in the crowd again. That we rushed in, the dim lighting wrapping around us like a blanket, drowning out the chaos outside. The music enveloped us, a rhythmic pulse that synchronized with the anxious beating of my heart. A band played softly at the far end, couples danced, and laughter rang out, starkly contrasting the turmoil that had become our lives. "What now?" Sam breathed, the tension in his shoulders easing only slightly. As we found a corner table, trying to blend in, I scanned the room. It felt surreal, as if we had stepped into a different world, a sanctuary. My fingers brushed over the ring I had picked up earlier, the design beckoning, whispering secrets that felt just out of reach. But then, just as hope began to unfurl its tender petals, a deep, familiar voice cut through the haze. "What are you doing here, Sarah?" I froze, my heart plummeting to my stomach. Across the room, silhouetted against the backdrop of vibrant sounds and laughter, stood my Uncle Jake. His expression was strained yet relieved, and behind him, shadows loomed that I didn't recognize. The room spun, the music faded, and terror clawed back at my insides. Had been searching for me, just as they were. Sarah. Mia grabbed my arm, her eyes wide, confusion and fear morphing her kind features. I wanted to scream, to run, to shake off the bewilderment that clouded my vision, but the words caught in my throat like shards of glass. Everything I had fought for, that fleeting sense of control, tipped over into chaos again, uncertainty threading its way back into my heart. The air felt electric with unanswered questions, and underneath the tumult, a seed of betrayal wormed its way into existence. As Jake stepped forward, a shadow of doubt cast across his face, I braced myself for the truth I hoped wouldn't shatter me entirely. "Tell me everything." The weight of my uncle's gaze pinned me in place, a blend of concern and accusation swirling in his expression. "Tell me everything," he repeated, the words hanging heavy between us, as if they were a rule I was bound to follow. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words formed, choked by the reality of the situation. 1,000 thoughts collided in my mind, thoughts of the chase, of the ring, of the secrets that had driven us to this exact moment. It felt as if my heart beat in sync with the pulsing rhythm of the music, drowning out the noise of everything around us. "Sarah, please," Jake urged, stepping forward with an intensity one hadn't seen before. "Have you found it?" His question was a dagger, piercing through my defenses. The truth hovered on the edge of my lips, a fragile thing that could shatter everything I thought I knew. In that moment, I saw not just my uncle but the glimmers of our shared past, the warmth of family dinners, the laughter at holiday gatherings, moments that now felt tainted with shadows. Mia squeezed my arm, her eyes darting between me and Jake, the urgency palpable in the air around us. "We need to get out of here, Sarah," she insisted, her voice tinged with panic, but as fear clawed at me, I could see Jake's determination not to let me go. "You don't understand what's at stake," he continued, a new gravity resonating in his words. "They'll come for you. They're already looking, and if you have what they think you have, then your life will never be the same." The chilling realization washed over me, and my heart sank at the implications. Had my pursuit of the translation led me to a fate worse than I had imagined? The ring pulsed in my shirt pocket, a constant reminder of the fragility of my situation. "Why didn't you tell me?" I blurted out, the hurt spilling from my lips before I could rein it in. "You let me go into danger alone." Jake's face softened for an instant, his guard slipping. "I thought I was protecting you. I thought if you stayed away from this life, if you didn't know the truth, you'd be safe, but I am part of this. I have the ring." I cried out, feeling the simmering anger boil over. "You've made decisions for me without even considering me." Across the bar, I caught sight of two men watching us, their expressions unreadable, hovering like vultures over our fraught exchange. Panic surged through me, and I felt the world narrow as the noise around us faded to a dull thrum, my focus zeroing in on the threat that approached. "Sarah, we need to leave, now." Sam urged, his voice louder now as manic energy surged in the small space. But nowhere felt truly safe. "What about the ring?" I asked, my voice raw. "Leave it," Jake said firmly, his hands now raised in surrender, the urgency renewed in his demeanor. "It's not worth your life. We need to get you out of here. I promise I will explain everything once we're safe." The words were charged, I could sense the underlying current of truth sparking between us. I wanted desperately to trust him, to believe that this would be over soon. Yet, the gravity of my discoveries twisted in my gut what were the secrets I had unwittingly inherited, and then, everything shifted. The bar door slammed open with a heavy clatter, and the light from outside surged in, casting long shadows that danced ominously across the faces of the patrons. A figure stepped through the threshold, tall and imposing. The crowd recoiled slightly, a wave of unease washing over the room like a tide pulling back just before a storm. My breath hitched as recognition settled in like ice water in my veins. It was one of the men from the alley, his face a mask of determination. "Everyone stay calm," he barked, surveying the crowd with narrowed eyes. "We're just looking for someone. What do we do?" Mia whispered, nearly trembling beside me, the tension in her voice palpable. "Follow my lead," Jake instructed, his demeanor shifting to one of quiet authority as he stepped between me and the approaching threat that we were trapped, cornered in a dance of danger under the false security of neon lights and jovial music, reality ripping away at the seams. My heart raced as I met Jake's gaze, a silent exchange of understanding that echoed louder than words. But just before Jake could respond, the man's eyes landed on me, piercing right through the crowd, a shark sensing blood in the water. "There she is," he said, a twisted smile breaking through his tension, eyes narrowing with intent. "We found her." The world spiraled into chaos as people began to shift, panic igniting around us like a wildfire. I turned to run, but Jake grabbed my shoulder. "Stay close. Don't let them separate us." It was too late. My heart ached with the weight of uncertainty as the night twisted into a new reality. I tried to breathe, to find the core of who I was among the chaos, but each surge of fear pulled me deeper into a churning abyss. All that was left was the swarm of bodies, confusion, and dread, and the chilling realization that perhaps I had stumbled into something much larger than myself, a web of secrets spun from lies and danger where no one was safe, including the ones I loved most. And as I ran, I could feel the threads of my life unraveling behind me, a simple translation that had morphed into a treacherous path, leading me toward an uncertain future. The air felt electric, every heartbeat echoing the chaos as I darted through the sea of bodies, panic igniting a primal survival instinct. Jake was a steady presence at my side, but the chaos was a living entity, gnashing its teeth, and I was nothing more than prey in a hunter's game. "Mia!" I shouted, searching the tumult for my friend. She had been beside me, but now she was swallowed by the crowd, a ghost amidst the fray. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. The very person who had stuck by me through this journey was now lost in the storm created by my choices. Without thinking, I pulled away from Jake, desperation sharpening my reflexes. "I have to find her." "No. Sarah, stay with me." Jake's voice cut sharply through the chaos, laced with urgency as he clutched my arm, but I was already moving, weaving through throngs of frantic people. A surge of adrenaline shot through me. I refused to leave Mia behind. That I scanned the crowd, heart racing. I spotted her for a fleeting second, a small figure pushed against the bar, her face twisted in fear. "Mia!" I yelled, reaching for her. But as our eyes met, the oppressive weight of the commotion around us brought a new wave of uncertainty crashing down. Suddenly, the man from the alley was on me, his hand gripping my arm with a vice-like force. "You're coming with me," he growled, his breath hot against my ear. Panic clawed at my insides as I struggled, twisting, but he was stronger, his grip unyielding. "Let her go!" Jake shouted, his voice rising above the din, edged with a fury that sent a shiver up my spine. I turned, catching a glimpse of him moving through the havoc, his expression a mix of anger and fear, a fighter on the verge of losing. In that moment, something inside me snapped. "No!" I cried out, channeling every ounce of emotion into my voice, the thought of the ring, the translation, all of it driving me forward. With every ounce of strength, I wrenched myself free, colliding with the wall behind me as I gasped for breath. The man faltered, momentarily stunned by my defiance, and I seized my chance. "Mia!" I screamed again, pushing against the crowd, my gaze frantically darting around. My fears twisted into memories of laughter and warmth, every moment we had shared igniting a fire to fight back, to find her and escape this nightmare. But as I turned, the door swung open once more, casting a harsh light onto the chaos within. Another figure stepped through, tall and commanding, a stark silhouette against the neon haze. My breath caught. This woman radiated an authority that sent a shiver down my spine. She surveyed the scene, a thin smile forming as if she relished the chaos. "You're quite the troublesome little heir, aren't you?" Every fiber of my being screamed with recognition, yet I couldn't fully grasp the implications. Fueled by dread, I pushed through on instinct, weaving past bodies like a floating ghost, desperate, terrified of the unseen threads that were now pulling me deeper into a truth I had yet to comprehend. "Sarah!" Jake called out, his voice cutting through the din. I felt the pull of his worry, the weight of his protective intent echoing in each shout. But I couldn't stop now. I was searching for Mia, my heart torn between safety and loyalty. Finally, I spotted her again, gripping the edge of a table. "Mia, come on!" I shouted, reaching out, but the crowd surged, and so too did the fateful twist of fate that accompanied it. Before I could reach her, the darkness descended. A heavy hand grasped my shoulder, and in an instant, I was spun around. The man from the alley loomed over me, anger swirling in his eyes. "You should have stayed hidden," he hissed, and the warmth of my hope sank as uncertainty walloped me. In the distance, I heard a muffled shout, a brief flash of urgency slicing through the noise. "Get her, now!" The woman ordered behind me, and I felt a sinking dread. There was a mocking tone to her voice that set my nerves ablaze. I twisted in the man's grip, seeing the determination in Jake's eyes reflect my desperation as he pushed through the throng. "No!" he shouted, but it was drowned out in the uproar around us. "Let me go!" I screamed, panic giving way to fury as I clawed at the man's arm, desperately throwing every ounce of strength I could muster into breaking free, but as I fought, I saw him nod slightly an imperceptible signal, and just like that, I was pulled away, yanked backward toward the door that swung open with the force of a hurricane behind it. There was no turning back now. I was about to step into a world I had never intended to enter. The darkness crouched beyond the threshold promising secrets and heartache, and as my foot crossed the threshold, the faintest glimmer of light caught my eye, a shimmering reflection of what could have been, but all too quickly it vanished, swallowed by shadows. This was just the beginning, the first page of an unwritten story filled with layers of betrayal and heartache, with the devastating knowledge that nothing would ever be the same again. And then, through the din, I heard a voice, deep, haunting, familiar. It echoed in the depths of my memory, whispering truths I never wanted to confront. "Sarah," it was my mother's voice. But how could it be? Just as I turned to face the sound, the door slammed shut behind me, sealing my fate. The darkness pressed against me as I stood in the heavy silence that followed the slamming door. My heart raced, not just from the fear of what loomed ahead, but from the chilling recognition of my mother's voice. It felt like a ghost rising from the depths of time, echoing in my mind with each frantic heartbeat. That I was pulled deeper into the room, the air thick with tension and the lingering scent of smoke and sweat. Figures moved in the shadows, their silhouettes long and menacing. I stumbled over my own feet, trying to compose myself, but the instability of the ground beneath me mirrored the tumult in my chest. "Welcome, Sarah," the woman, the commander of chaos, said, her voice smooth and taunting. She stepped closer, and the light caught her features, revealing a slick smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You've come quite a long way," shivers cascaded down my spine. "Where's Mia?" I tried to sound brave, but the tremor in my voice betrayed me. "She's safe for now," the woman replied casually, her dark eyes sparkling with amusement as if my fear was a novel charm. "But the events of tonight will only draw you closer to understanding the truth, the truth." The word hung in the air, heavy and ominous. I could feel pieces of a twisted puzzle slowly falling into place, but I wasn't ready to grasp them. All I knew was that I needed to find Mia and get the hell out of here. "You know," the woman continued, stepping back to allow the shadows to envelop me completely, "it's fascinating how we often don't see the strings pulling us until they choke the life out of us." Her laugh was light, almost melodic, but layered with something darker. And then, a movement caught my eye. In the shadows, a figure stepped forward, a familiar face emerging from the abyss. A tall man with hair falling in soft waves and a stoic expression that flickered with concern. It was Dominic, an acquaintance from my childhood who once promised to protect me. I felt a flood of conflicting emotions. His presence felt like both shelter and a storm. "Sarah," he said softly, and for a moment, the world around us faded, leaving only his voice up against the roar of chaos, striking a tender chord in my heart. "We need to talk," but before I could respond, the grip on my arm tightened further, pulling me away from him and back toward the woman. "Sarah, you cannot simply rush into this," she said, her voice now dangerous with its softness. "You must understand what you're involved in." "What am I involved in?" I shouted, anguish spilling into my words. "You're holding me hostage. Just let me go, hostage, or fated." She mused, her expression shifting to a disquieting combination of pity and excitement. "Every choice leads us into intricate webs. Yours is woven with threads that span a billion-dollar empire. Yours, by birthright. Her words were sharp, slicing through my confusion. What are you talking about? There is power behind your name, hidden from you by those who feared the repercussions. They have tried to bury it, but it's rising again, and someone like you, well, you're a key player in a game much larger than you realized. A wave of nausea washed through me. My life had always felt mundane, the plodding rhythm of ordinary days a comfort. But now, it was unraveling, revealing stakes I had never asked for. You think I want any of this? I spat, anger bubbling up like a violent tide. I want my friend, I want to go home. Dominic stepped forward, as if to help, but the woman raised a hand. Careful, Dominic. This isn't your fight, she warned, and in that moment, he became a shadow once again, and then, the light shifted. It was fleeting yet luminous, bathing the dim room as a door creaked open somewhere behind me. The distant sounds of chaos became clearer, voices peeling back the weight of uncertainty. Mia. I breathed, recognition surging through me, a thin thread of hope. But before I could take a step, the woman laughed, delight dancing across her features as if she reveled in my anxiety. Time's up, dear. The past doesn't wait for the unknowing. You have choices to make. The shadows around me seemed to condense, encasing my heart in a vice of fear. I wanted to demand explanations, to push back against this darkness, but all I could hear was my mother's voice whispering through the void, pulling at the frayed edges of my sanity. Sarah, the voice echoed again, softer this time, weaving through the tension and drowning out all else. Find me. You must remember. As those words lingered in the air, the figure of Dominic slipped back into view. A flash of something, a sliver of light between us, inviting and promising. But in an instant, everything shifted, the door slamming shut behind him, locking me in this tangled web of uncertainty. Choose wisely, Sarah, the woman warned, her voice thick with amusement as she took a step back, leaving me suffocated within the fog of impending decisions. But I could still hear my mother's voice in the distance, beckoning, insisting I uncover the puzzle hidden within my lineage, the key to whatever had been stolen from me. And then, to my horror, I realized I had only moments to claim the fragments of hope, with Jake and Mai on the other side of the door swirling in uncertainty. The weight of my choices pressed down, heavy, like the onset of an inevitable storm. Time waits for no one, the woman taunted, her smile sharp, every inch of her exuding malevolence and promise alike. And as the shadows closed in around me, I felt the bitter sting of dread, knowing that the decisions I would soon make could save or shatter everything I held dear. The darkness clung to me like a cold blanket, swirling with shadows of doubt and fear. Every word the woman had uttered, every revelation that had tumbled like a house of cards, lingered around me, wrapping my mind in a suffocating grip. Power behind your name, she had said, the words echoing like a haunting refrain. What did it mean? How had I unknowingly stepped into a narrative that stretched far beyond my comprehension and intentions? And right now, at this very moment, I felt the weight of every choice I had made weighing down on my shoulders, echoing all the paths I had traversed, all the people I had lost or put at risk. Where was Mia? What had happened to her? The thought of her trapped somewhere in this storm ignited an urgency that threatened to consume me. I had to escape this place. I had to find Mia. But first, I needed to understand this legicido, unearth the truth hidden beneath layers of fragments I hadn't realized I was piecing together. The woman watching me wore an expression of bemusement, as if she had witnessed this struggle 1,000 times before, her dominance radiating from every pore. Why are you doing this? I croaked, my voice shaky yet determined. Why are you holding me here? Her laughter rang out, void of warmth. Because you have something within you, the key to unlocking an empire, my dear. And your journey has just begun. The family you think you know is wrapped in secrets, bloodlines entwined with darkness. It's time you explore what was hidden. A frigid gust swirled through the room, sending a shiver down my spine. I was being called into a destiny forged from shadows. I could fight it, but that could cost me everything. I knew I had to make a choice. Was I ready and willing to inherit this fractured legacy? As I stood there, uncertainty battling determination in my heart, a flicker of light broke through the gloom, illuminating the range of choices lying before me. I won't become a pawn. I'll uncover the truth on my own terms, I declared, my voice steady now, resonating with resolve. In that moment it was as if the walls around me vibrated with anticipation, and the woman's smirk faltered for an instant. Very well, then. But remember, every choice comes with consequences. Suddenly, a crash echoed from behind the door, followed by urgent voices, the unmistakable sound of my friend's desperation intruding into the darkness. My heart raced. Perhaps there was still hope, still a chance to turn this storm back. Sarah. A voice called out, unmistakably Jake's. Are you in there? The realization hit me like a bolt of lightning. They were fighting through me, family and friends risking everything for me. I could feel it pressing into my veins, igniting the call to persevere, to reclaim my power and defy the shackles of darkness binding me. I'm here. I'm coming. I yelled, rushing toward the door at the far end of the room. The woman stepped in front of me, her hand gripping my wrist, a last barrier between me and freedom, but there was a spark of something, a moment of vulnerability that passed between us. You think you can face what's out there? She asked, her voice a mix of menace and fascination. You are not ready for the truth. I locked eyes with her, feeling the pulse of my past beating louder than her doubts. I don't need to be ready, I just need to be willing. With a surge of determination, I broke free from her grasp, the doors slamming open and the world rushing back in, vibrant yet drowning in ambiguity, the chaos roaring through the air. As I stepped out into the dimly lit hallway, I felt the electric charge of hope surge through my veins, propelling me toward Jake's voice. Over here. I screamed, racing toward him as he rushed forward, urgency woven through each step. He caught me in a heartbeat, wrapping his arms around me in a fierce embrace. Thank God, he murmured, relief washing over him like a tidal wave. Mia. I gasped, looking around, anxiety knotting my stomach. She's safe. We need to go, now. They know you're here, Jake replied, forcing urgency into every syllable. Before another word could pass, the woman's voice sliced through the air, cold and commanding. You think you can escape your destiny? It's too late for that. But I wasn't finished. In that moment, I grabbed Jake's hand, feeling a strength inside me boiling to confront whatever was to come. No, I shouted over my shoulder, my voice steady and powerful, I will carve my own path. Together, we sprinted down the hallway, determined to face whatever awaited us, shrouded in uncertainty yet fueled by the power of choice. We burst into the main room, my heart hammering, and there stood Mia, alive and vibrant, locked in a debate with another shadowy figure. I'm fine. She exclaimed as our eyes met, her relief mirroring my own. Let's go. I yelled, stepping forward to usher her toward freedom. Just as we turned to escape, the woman's figure rose. You can't run from this, Sarah. You will return, you and your destiny are inseparable. But as I rushed into the outside night, the world expanding and breathing life back into me, I turned one last time, my heart steady with newfound resolve. Maybe my destiny is to break the cycle, I declared, embracing my fate on my own terms. The night enveloped us, the cool air breathy with promise as we plunged into the darkness together, leaving behind fragments of the past as I made peace with the knowledge that the journey was only just beginning. And I could feel its slightest shift in the air, the heartbeat of a world waiting for my command. Together, I whispered, taking Mia's and Jake's hands, feeling the pulse of family flow through us as we stepped out into the unknown, the clutter of our lives now the canvas of a future unwritten. The night whispered secrets as we forged ahead, and in my heart, I knew the truth would rise not just to claim me, but to place my story at the helm of its narrative. A narrative I would navigate with love, strength, and the courage to embrace the truth, whatever shape it took. And that truth, it would forever echo in my heart, a reminder of the power to choose, to forgive, to reconnect, and to blaze a trail uniquely my own. And in that moment, I learned that sometimes, the choices we never asked for lead us home.